Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. So, Alexander Usyk again answers questions, brushes Daniel Dubois aside with almost contempt. When we had the weigh-ins and Alexander Usyk came at the weight he came in at, heaviest of his career, at first I thought he's just getting older, he's coming in heavy, he's settled into heavyweight. After watching the fight, and I've watched it 2 or 3 times now, to me it was very evident that he was coming in heavier and intended to hit harder. It was almost like when Daniel Dubois stormed the ring and interfered and interrupted Usyk's speech post-fight when he was talking about his dad and this, that, and the other. There was a clear intent for me, and probably some of the stuff that Camp Dubois had done in the build-up. But to me, watching this repeatedly now 2 or 3 times, to me it was evident that Alexander Usyk was coming out to stop Daniel Dubois, stop him concisely, and even kind of beat some respect into Daniel Dubois maybe. But it was an absolute fucking amazing performance by who is arguably one of the most technically proficient fighters I've possibly ever seen. It was just a thing to behold. Very early on, I remember he was in a group chat with myself, Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel, Joe Stunnett and Dean, and I was out watching this on the pavement in the street on my phone. But I remember putting on the group, as Daniel Dubois was walking to the ring, I was almost starting to believe almost the hype, and my prediction of an Usyk win almost was going out the window. And I looked at Daniel Dubois and I thought, man, this man looks intense. Man, he looks in the zone. And within a minute of the fight, it kind of like, I switched my view again. Daniel Dubois really only had one way of winning this. He could never outbox Alexander Usyk. He couldn't outthink him for sure. We talked about this in the build-up, that put a clear objective in front of Daniel Dubois, put another physically imposing but not too scientific fighter in front of him, and he's probably going to beat them down. The problem comes when he has to think. And very early on, Dubois knew that he had to impose pressure and he had to impose his attributes, his physical attributes. He looked the bigger, stronger man. Although in this fight, I must say, when you're looking at them in the ring, there didn't seem a massive size disparity between the two. Alexander Usyk looked very much the heavyweight. But very early on, Usyk started off not advancing, but he very rarely went backwards. But what he would do, he would shoot his jab sometimes on the outside of Dubois' right hand, and sometimes he would shoot the jab up the middle on the inside of Dubois' right hand. Dubois has this, we've talked about it before, this very open out in front guard, which is kind of no guard at all. Yes, it means your offensive punches have a lesser distance to travel, but it also means that you leave big gaps in your vicinity for your opponent's punches to land. So Usyk made Dubois think from the start, and he made him think by shooting the jabs from the outside and then moving his head off the centre line and he's shooting his jabs up the inside of Dubois' hands. And then when he did shoot the jab, whether it was on the inside or the outside, he would then throw the left hand, throw the backhand, again, either down the middle, in between the guard, or he'd throw it from the outside. And very early on, it was clear that Dubois was having a problem with this. He couldn't cope with this. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't think of a plan. He couldn't think of an answer on the spot. And this is what we talked about beforehand, that this is where Dubois' problems lie. So when he started doing this now made Dubois think a little bit more. And it now made him think that whatever I do in attack is not working. I'm being made to think too much. Then Usyk started to slowly, and this is one of the other differences that Usyk made for me. He would use his lateral movement and he would move like he did. Alexander Usyk in this fight didn't employ the fast feet, didn't employ the mobility that he had in other fights. What he did was, this time, when Dubois advanced from sort of the second round onwards, Usyk would hold his feet. Usyk would hold his feet, and as Dubois led off, whether it be with a backhand or a jab, Usyk's hands were fucking lightning. Usyk would answer back with the counters inside the punches of Daniel Dubois, or sometimes shift off the centre line and fucking answer back and fire back with counters from the outside. It was absolute technical fucking genius. It was just to witness the absolute mastery of an absolute master. And this time, Alexander Usyk wasn't using his wasn't using his quick feet. When Daniel Dubois moved in, tried to apply the pressure with a jab and follow it with a big backhand, Usyk held his feet, answered back quickly with a combination, flush on the chin. The timing, the accuracy compared to Dubois, the gulf was massive. And as I said, Alexander Usyk was holding his feet, and this time, Alexander Usyk was planting his feet. You could see a couple of these counters that he landed on the inside, all over the top of Dubois' backhand incoming from the outside, throwing them shots, were landing on the jaw, and he was hitting hard. He was hitting harder than I've ever seen. He hit him early in the first or second round with a similar sort of shot as Dubois came in. And you could see the sweat spray. He was hitting hard, very hard. And because of these problems he was posing, because of the way he was giving in these different looks, shooting the jab up the centre or shooting the jab on the outside over the top of Dubois' right hand, was just, it scrambled Dubois, and you saw the effect of the mental toll this took, then manifested into the physical toll, because Dubois looked exhausted from 2 or 3 rounds on, because just almost the panic mode that Dubois went into, because again, as we talked about before, he now has a problem in front of him. Not just a tree to knock down, not just another human to knock over. He now has a problem. He now has an equation in front of him that he just doesn't have the answers to. He barely understands the question, let alone an answer. And it took the toll, and Dubois was blowing hard, and he had a look when he went back to the corner of just complete, I'm at a mental standstill. I can't do this. So there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere for me to hide. I don't have the answers. I don't want to be there anymore. But as Usyk was then landing the counter, the fact that he was holding his feet and knew that his timing and his accuracy was that good that whatever Dubois threw, he could slip to the outside, take himself to the centre line, or stay in the middle, slight weave, and away he go, and landed his punches wherever they come from. His hands were lightning and beat Dubois every time. Dubois landed a couple of shots early on, but Usyk is on just another stratosphere than anybody else. It's freakish. The man is. There are some other great fighters. There's Crawford. There's Canelo. There is. Forgive me, forget his name. The Filipino. Ty, what's his name? You know what I mean. There are other great fighters. There's Bam Rodriguez. There are other great pound for pound fighters. But to do what Alexander has done at cruiserweight and heavyweight, and beat the fighters he's beaten in the way that he's beaten him, I really honestly thought, as I said in the preview, that Dubois had a chance. A chance, as long as Usyk had aged long enough and slipped enough. He hasn't slipped at all. If anything, his hand speed looked as quick as I'd ever seen it. And the way that him and his team could engineer a game plan. They must have seen that against Hrgović, Daniel Dubois took those long right hands from Hrgović all night. When he was stood on the outside and saw those shots coming, Dubois' chin is fantastic. Against Miller, again, from almost the mid-range or the outside, when Miller's landing shots and Dubois can see them coming, no problem. But as when Usyk fought Dubois in the first fight, landed that stiff jab on the way in, saw it late, wasn't braced. And it's like Dubois knew. So it's like Usyk knew. Usyk had the key the whole time to Dubois' padlock. Dubois never knew, though, that Usyk had a spare key and was just going to let himself in at will. And that's what he did. He put his key in, unlocked the lock, and let himself in when he wanted. That was it. Simple. And he knew that if he knew that Dubois had to advance, it was Dubois' only chance, and he knew that right on his way in, short, sharp punches, I'm going to set my feet, throw short, sharp combinations on the button, and that's all she wrote. And that's what happened. It was phenomenal. Alexander Usyk is a genius, a master, the greatest of his generation, pound for pound, number one for me. No one else can do that. And no, the other pound for pound fighters may do that once in their career. Maybe have that defining night where on that night, pound for pound, they beat anybody. Usyk does it again and again and again. There are no words. There are no words. There are not enough superlatives to throw at Alexander Usyk. And as he said, don't push the horses. Do not disrespect this man if you're planning to fight him, because that's what's going to happen. He'll decimate you, destroy you, and make you look stupid. Daniel Dubois looked stupid. It was almost sad to see. And I'm not a Daniel Dubois hater. And listen, as I always say, respect anyone who gets in there and puts on the gloves, let alone get to that level. I think Daniel Dubois is, by all accounts, a nice kid. I'm not a fan of the team around him. I don't think they've done him any justice. And I have to say, because Dubois was beaten mentally, and that led to him being beaten physically, he quit again. He did, and I don't like to use that word because that sounds disrespectful to a fighter, okay? And I respect all fighters. I respect Daniel Dubois hugely. And I think Daniel Dubois will go on. Take Usyk out of the equation. Daniel Dubois probably beats 9 out of every 10 heavyweights out there. That's a marker of how good Alexander Usyk is. So Daniel Dubois can come again. Whether he'll ever be the same again, I doubt. We all knew that Daniel Dubois had some mental issues a bit harsh, but had maybe belief problems, had confidence problems. Well, they're right back there now. They're right back there because that was a shattering defeat. It was an embarrassing defeat. Alexander Usyk took you to school and walked you through the gates and sat you down. Essentially is what he did. And that is humiliating. And he quit. He got down on the floor. He looked over. He went down awkwardly. Looked like a really bad knockdown. And it was a bad knockdown. But Daniel Dubois was aware. He was there. Daniel Dubois was in the building. And he was looking at the corner and he was registering the count. And he got up on 10. Now, when he got up on 10, 11, when he got up and walked back over to his corner, he walked over fine. He walked over. He didn't get up, fall about. He didn't get up and stumble. He got up, walked over as calm as you like, which means he could have got up 2 seconds earlier had he wanted to. I don't like the word quit, but objectively, what else do you call it? He didn't want to get up. He didn't want to get up in time before the count and continue that fight, a fight that he knew he had no place in, unfortunately. But Alexander Usyk is amazing. He's amazing. Has he got one more fight in him? Fuck yeah. Easily. I think Alexander Usyk is the type of professional that knows when the will is gone, when the love of the game is gone, and when his numbers and his performances in camps, when his team around him tell him the body's starting to take a toll, this, that, and the other. I think he's got to have a fight. I don't want him to. I'd like to see him retire now. He's done everything. He's been a credit to the sport, a credit to his country, a credit to himself. He's a master. He's a genius, and he should walk. In my opinion, I've always said no man has the right to tell another man what to do or what not to do. I'd like to see Alexander Usyk walk away as one of the greatest to ever do it. We can argue about generations. We can argue about the number of fights a lot of heavyweights have in history. Put Alexander Usyk in there of anyone. You'd give him a shout against anyone. Just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. I'll see you all soon.